Okay, so picture this. You're walking into a job interview for a handpacker role,
Yeah.
but you're not just prepared, you're confident.
You know exactly what they're looking for.
You know how to showcase your skills.
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today. Your personalized cheat sheet for acing that interview.
Exactly.
We've got RoleCatcher's awesome guides on the handpacker role,
We do.
and we're going to unpack their top 10 interview questions.
Love that. But first, let's set the stage.
Sure.
What does a handpacker actually do day to day?
Okay.
Well, the career guide paints a really clear picture. You're manually collecting, packing, and labeling goods,
Okay.
often in a fast-paced environment like a warehouse or a distribution center.
I see.
And it's all about efficiency, attention to detail, making sure those packages are secure and correctly labeled.
Makes sense.
Sometimes even working with specialized equipment.
So you need to be pretty nimble, right?
Exactly.
Both
Basically.
physically and mentally.
Yes. And the guide highlights the stamina and focus required, especially when dealing with those repetitive tasks. But it also mentions the variety of settings you might find yourself in.
Okay.
From warehouses to retail stock rooms. That variety can keep things interesting.
Interesting. Okay, now, before we jump into the interview questions, what about the big picture?
Okay.
Is this a field with growth potential?
Absolutely. The career guide points to the continued growth of e-commerce and logistics, meaning the demand for skilled handpackers
Right.
is likely to remain really steady. Plus, there's a push towards greater efficiency and sustainability, which means companies are investing in streamlining their packing processes, often with technology.
So it's not just about manual decks. Okay, enough teasing. Let's get to those top 10 interview questions from RoleCatcher's guide.
All right.
We'll break down each question,
Good.
what the interviewer is really looking for,
Yeah.
and how to craft answers that stand out. Plus, we'll brainstorm some potential follow-up questions you might get.
Great. Let's start with a classic opener.
Okay,
Can you describe your experience with handpacking?
seems straightforward,
It does.
but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
You bet. The interview guide says, even if this is an entry-level role, and you haven't specifically been a handpacker before,
All right.
they're trying to assess your relevant skills.
Oh.
Think about times you've demonstrated attention to detail efficiency working quickly and accurately.
So even if your experience is from a different job,
Yes.
like working in a fast-paced restaurant
Exactly.
or stocking shelves in a retail store, you can still highlight those transferable skills.
You can frame your answer around how those experiences have prepared you for the demands of handpacking.
Okay.
And remember, don't just list tasks.
Right.
Give specific examples.
Examples.
Instead of saying, I was responsible for packing boxes, say, I consistently packed 100 boxes per hour while maintaining a 99% accuracy rate.
Right.
That's the kind of detail that catches their attention.
It's all about showing,
Yes.
not just telling. Now, what kind of follow-up questions might they ask to dig deeper?
Well, they might ask about your packing speed
Okay.
and how you maintain accuracy under pressure. Or they might ask you to describe a specific packing challenge you faced
I see.
and how you overcame it.
Great points. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can provide that extra edge.
It can.
If you're practicing your answers,
Yes.
their AI can analyze your response and give you feedback, like suggesting you quantify your achievements or use keywords from the job description.
Exactly. It's like having a personalized coach guiding you toward the perfect answer.
Okay, let's move on to question 2. How do you ensure products are packed correctly and safely?
Okay.
Now, this sounds like it goes beyond just being careful.
It does. You're right. The interview guide says this is where they're testing your knowledge of safety procedures and your attention to detail. They want to see that you understand the importance of following protocols to protect both yourself
Okay.
and the products you're handling.
So it's not just about speed.
Yeah.
It's about quality and safety, too.
Exactly. Describe a step-by-step process you'd use, highlighting those checks and balances.
Okay.
For example, you could say, I always double-check the packing slip against the items. I make sure fragile items are properly cushioned, and I use the designated packing materials for each product type.
So it's like having a mental checklist
It is.
to ensure everything is done right.
Right. And remember, the career guide emphasizes that safety is a core knowledge area for handpackers.
Okay.
You could even weave in mentions of any safety training you've had,
I see.
demonstrating your commitment to a safe work environment.
Now, I'm thinking they might follow up with a scenario like,
Okay.
what would you do if you noticed a damaged product during the packing process? How do you handle that kind of curveball?
Honesty and a clear plan of action are key here. Don't try to hide the damage or pretend it didn't happen. Instead, outline the steps you would take.
Right.
I would immediately isolate the damaged product, report it to my supervisor, and follow the company's procedures for handling damaged goods.
So it shows you take responsibility and you're proactive in finding solutions.
Exactly. And you can even turn it into a positive learning experience.
Okay.
You could add, I would also use this as an opportunity to review the packing procedures and identify any potential areas for improvement to prevent similar incidents in the future.
That shows you're not just following orders.
Right.
You're actively thinking about ways to improve the process.
You are. And you can bet RoleCatcher's AI could help you refine this answer, suggesting keywords related to quality control or problem solving that align with the specific company's values.
Okay, question 3. Can you work in a fast-paced environment with tight deadlines?
Okay.
This feels like a classic interview question.
It is.
But I'm sure there's a way to answer it that truly stands out.
Absolutely. This is where you want to showcase your ability to handle pressure, stay focused, and deliver results even when things get hectic.
So how do you go beyond just saying, yes, I can?
Draw on your past experiences, even if they're not directly related to packing. Maybe you worked in a busy restaurant.
Okay.
Volunteered at a fast-paced event, or even juggled multiple projects in school. The key is to provide specific examples of how you've successfully managed time, multitasked, and met deadlines under pressure.
So instead of saying, I'm good at multitasking,
Right.
you could say, during the holiday rush at the coffee shop,
Yes.
I managed to take orders, prepare drinks, and serve customers while maintaining a friendly and efficient service. That paints a much clearer picture.
It does. And you could even tie it back to the hand packing role by saying something like,
Okay.
I'm confident that my experience in handling multiple tasks simultaneously will allow me to thrive in a fast-paced packing environment.
Now I'm thinking about potential follow-up questions.
Yeah.
They might ask you to describe a time you faced a particularly challenging deadline.
Right.
And how you approached it.
That's a great one. Be prepared to talk about a specific situation, the actions you took, and the outcome. Remember, it's not just about working fast. It's about working smart and efficiently.
And here's where RoleCatcher's AI can really shine.
It can.
It can analyze the job description and identify keywords related to time management, productivity, or stress tolerance, helping you tailor your answer to resonate with what the employer is looking for.
Exactly. It's like having a personalized guide to crafting the perfect interview response.
Okay, let's move on to question 4, and I'm already sensing a theme here.
It's all about showing you can handle the demands of the role. And this next question is a prime example. How do you ensure you're meeting productivity targets?
So it's not enough to just work quickly.
Right.
You need to be efficient and hit those goals.
Right. Exactly. The interview guide emphasizes that employers want to see you have a system. They want to know you can set goals, track your progress, and identify areas for improvement.
So it's about having a plan.
Yes.
And being accountable for your own performance.
Precisely. And it's a chance to showcase your proactive mindset. Instead of just saying, I work hard, explain how you approach productivity. Do you use a to-do list or a timer? Do you break down tasks into smaller chunks?
Those are great examples. And it shows you're not just relying on brute force, but using strategies to maximize your output.
Right. And if you can quantify your past successes even better, instead of, I was good at meeting deadlines, try, in my previous role, I consistently exceeded my daily quota by 10% by implementing a new labeling system.
Wow, that's impressive. You're not just meeting targets, you're exceeding them and showing initiative. And I bet RoleCatcher's AI could help you identify those quantifiable achievements from your past experiences.
It could.
That would resonate with this specific employer.
You bet. It could even suggest ways to phrase those achievements using metrics that align with the company's own performance indicators.
Okay, thinking like an interviewer now, what kind of follow-up question could really test someone on this?
They might ask, tell me about a time you struggled to meet a productivity target. What did you learn from that experience?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is.
Feels like a trap, but I guess it's a chance to show you're self-aware and learn from your mistakes.
Exactly. Be honest about the challenge, but focus on the positive. Explain the steps you took to address it, and most importantly, highlight what you learned and how you applied those lessons moving forward.
So it's about turning a potential negative into a positive by showcasing your resilience and growth mindset.
Precisely. Now let's shift gears slightly with question 5. Can you work effectively as part of a team?
This seems pretty standard.
It is.
But I'm curious what the interview guide highlights here.
Well, I'm guessing it's all about those soft skills, right? Communication, collaboration, being a team player. But the guide stresses that they're looking for specific examples, not just vague statements.
So instead of saying, I'm a people person,
Right.
you could talk about a time you helped a teammate who was struggling,
Yes.
or how you effectively communicated to resolve a conflict.
Exactly. And think about those typical interactions the career guide mentioned for handpackers. You'll be working with other team members, supervisors, maybe even customers or delivery drivers. Highlight your ability to communicate clearly, respectfully, and contribute to a positive work environment.
Now imagine they follow up with, tell me about a time you had to work with a difficult teammate. How did you handle the situation? That feels like a classic test of your conflict resolution skills.
It is. Choose an example where you demonstrated patience, understanding, and a focus on finding solutions. It's not about bad-mouthing the other person, but showcasing your emotional intelligence.
Right. It's about focusing on your actions and how you navigated a tricky situation.
Now, here's where getting a little insider knowledge can be super helpful. Remember the career guide recommended networking with people in the field? Well, if you can connect with someone who works at the company you're interviewing with, you might glean insights into their specific team dynamics and tailor your answers accordingly.
That's brilliant. It shows you're proactive and genuinely interested in fitting into their team culture. Okay, let's tackle question 6. How do you handle repetitive tasks? I mean, that's a big part of handpacking, right?
It is. And the interview guide stresses the importance of framing your answer positively. Don't complain about boredom or lack of challenge. Instead, focus on the techniques you use to stay engaged and maintain that all-important attention to detail.
So it's about showing that you can handle the monotony without letting your performance slip.
Exactly. Talk about setting personal goals, breaking down tasks into smaller chunks, or using mental strategies to stay focused. Maybe you listen to music or podcasts while you work to keep your energy up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about finding ways to stay motivated and productive even when the tasks are repetitive.
Right. And they might even ask a follow-up question like, what are some of the challenges of repetitive work and how do you overcome them?
Okay. That one goes beyond just techniques.
It does.
It's getting to self-awareness and problem solving.
Exactly. And remember, we mentioned earlier that technology is becoming more prevalent in the packing industry. The career guide even talked about automation and robotics.
Right. So even though it's called handpacker, technology still plays a role. How could someone address that in an interview?
It's a chance to showcase your adaptability and willingness to learn. You could say, I'm eager to embrace new technologies and comfortable working alongside automated systems. In fact, I've been reading about mention a specific technology, and I'm excited about the potential to improve efficiency and accuracy in packing.
That shows you're forward-thinking and committed to staying relevant in a changing industry. Okay. Question 7. How do you prioritize your workload? This feels like a question for someone with more experience.
You're right. This is typically aimed at senior-level candidates, but even if you're entry-level, it's good to have a framework for thinking about prioritization.
So it's about organization, time management,
Yes,
and maybe even a bit of delegation, right?
exactly. The interview guide recommends outlining a clear process for setting priorities based on urgency and importance. Do you use a to-do list? A specific method. Mentioning a system shows you're organized and thoughtful.
And even if you haven't had formal experience delegating tasks, you can still talk about how you would approach prioritizing different packing orders based on deadlines or special instructions.
Right. Show them you can think critically and make sound decisions even under pressure.
Now, I bet they'll throw in a curveball here.
Okay.
Something like, tell me about a time you had to reprioritize your workload due to unforeseen circumstances. How did you handle it?
That's a great one. Be ready with an example that demonstrates your flexibility, adaptability, and ability to think on your feet. Did a rush order come in? Did a machine malfunction? How did you adjust your plan to meet the new demands?
And here's where RoleCatcher's AI could be incredibly helpful. Imagine it analyzing the job description and suggesting specific scenarios you might face in this role, allowing you to practice your response and tailor it to the company's specific needs.
Exactly. It's like having a customized simulation to prepare for any curveball they might throw your way. Okay, let's dive into question 8, which brings us back to those real-world problem-solving scenarios.
I'm ready for it. What do we got?
Question 8 is, can you describe a time you had to troubleshoot a problem during packing? They're looking to see how you handle those inevitable hiccups in the process.
So it's not just about identifying the problem, but taking ownership and finding a solution.
Precisely. And the interview guide emphasizes the importance of choosing a specific example that showcases your problem-solving process. Explain how you identified the issue and the steps you took to diagnose it and how you ultimately resolved it. And the interview guide emphasizes the importance of choosing a specific example that showcases your problem-solving process.
Right.
Explain how you identified the issue,
Okay.
the steps you took to diagnose it.
And how you ultimately resolved it.
It doesn't have to be a massive, dramatic problem.
No.
Even something like a labeling error or a shortage of packing materials can be a good example.
Right.
As long as you highlight your thought process and actions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a chance to showcase your resourcefulness. Did you refer to a manual, consult a coworker? Use your own knowledge and experience to come up with a solution.
Those are great points. It's about showing them you're not just a pair of hands.
Yes.
You're a thinking, problem-solving member of the team.
You are.
Okay, now I'm curious about potential follow-up questions. What if they ask,
Yeah.
what resources or tools do you use to troubleshoot problems?
That's a good one. Be prepared to talk about specific resources.
Okay.
Whether it's company manuals, online forums, specific tools, or even your own intuition and experience. It shows you're resourceful and proactive in finding solutions.
And it ties back to that theme of continuous learning that we've been talking about throughout this deep dive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ready for question 9? Bring it on.
Right. This one focuses back on safety. How do you ensure you are following safety protocols during packing?
This feels like a really important one. It's not just about protecting yourself, but also your coworkers and the products you're handling.
You're absolutely right. The career guide lists understanding safety regulations as a core knowledge area for hand packers.
So how do you answer this in a way that really impresses them?
Outline a clear process for checking and double-checking safety protocols. Mention any specific training or certifications you have related to workplace safety. Do you regularly review company guidelines? Do you actively look for potential hazards and take steps to mitigate them?
It's about showing that you're proactive and take safety seriously.
Yes.
Not just going through the motions.
Exactly. Now, for a potential follow-up question, imagine they ask, what would you do if you witnessed a colleague not following safety protocols?
That's a tough one.
It is.
It's testing your leadership skills and commitment to creating a safe work environment. What's the best way to approach that?
Focus on respectfully addressing the situation. Explain the importance of the protocols offered to help them understand the guidelines, and if necessary, escalate the issue to a supervisor.
So it's about being a responsible team member.
Yes.
And advocating for safety, not just looking the other way.
Precisely. Okay, ready for the final question.
Hit me with it.
Question 10. What are your salary expectations? The dreaded salary question.
Ooh, that one always feels a bit tricky to navigate.
It can be. But remember, the interview guide emphasizes the importance of research and knowing your worth. Before the interview, do your homework. Use websites like salary.com or Glassdoor to research typical salary ranges for hand packers in your area.
So it's not about throwing out a random number.
No.
It's about coming in prepared with data to support your expectations.
Exactly. Consider your experience, your skills, the specific requirements of the job, and even factor in things like benefits and growth potential. It's about the overall package.
And I imagine RoleCatcher's AI could be a game changer here. Could it analyze the job description and provide insights into the company's salary structure or even suggest negotiation strategy?
You bet. It could even analyze your experience level and suggest appropriate salary ranges based on market data.
That's incredible. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. 10 tough interview questions, insider strategies for answering them, and how RoleCatcher's AI can be your secret weapon throughout the process. But before we wrap up, I want to make this all a little more real. What do you say we do a quick role-play scenario?
I'm game. It's one thing to talk about these strategies, it's another to see them in action.
All right, let's say they ask you about a time you had to troubleshoot a problem during packing. Remember, that was question 8 from our list? Yeah. What example comes to mind? How would you answer?
Okay, here's a scenario. Imagine I'm in the interview and I say, in my previous role at a busy online retailer, we were packing a large order of delicate ceramic mugs. As I was inspecting the boxes, I noticed that some of them didn't have enough packing peanuts to properly cushion the mugs during shipping.
That's a realistic scenario.
Oh.
So you've identified the problem. What did you do next?
I immediately paused my packing and inspected the other boxes to see if this was a widespread issue. I then brought the problem to my supervisor's attention, explaining the potential risk of damage to the mugs if they weren't adequately protected.
That shows you're proactive and take quality control seriously.
Right. Then I suggested we gather additional packing peanuts from the warehouse and reinforce the affected boxes. My supervisor agreed, and we worked together to ensure that all the mugs were properly cushioned before shipping.
That's great teamwork and problem solving.
And to tie it back to that learning aspect, I could add, I also took this opportunity to review the company's packing guidelines with my team to prevent similar issues from occurring in the future.
Perfect. You've identified the problem, taken action, and shared those lessons learned with the team. That's a great example of a strong answer to the troubleshooting question.
And remember, it's all about using that STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. It helps you structure your answer in a way that clearly showcases your skills and experience.
Okay, that was a fantastic role play. I think it really brings those strategies to life. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners as they prepare for their handpacker interviews?
Preparation is key. Use those RoleCatcher guides to understand the role and anticipate those tough questions. And don't be afraid to tap into the power of their AI to tailor your CV, fine-tune your answers, and get that personalized feedback.
Absolutely. And even though this is an entry-level position, remember those long-term goals. The career guide talked about advancement opportunities and specialization. Keep that in mind as you present yourself.
Exactly. Show them you're not just looking for a job, you're looking for a career.
Now for a final thought-provoking question. How can the repetitive nature of handpacking actually be a strength if framed the right way in an interview?
That's a great one. I think it's all about highlighting those qualities that thrive in a consistent environment. Reliability, focus, attention to detail, a strong work ethic.
So it's about turning that potential weakness into a strength by emphasizing the positive attributes it requires.
Precisely. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into acing that handpacker interview. We encourage you to explore RoleCatcher, even the free version. Put these tips into action, and remember, with the right preparation and mindset, you can absolutely nail that interview.
And who knows, maybe even discover a career path you'll love. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.